Every day in our huddle, that's what we say
Yeah.
together. And it's just more than words for us. I think
It
when
really is.
you see things happening, there's no other way. If you spread apart, the season goes down quicker than anything else. And we talk about with the injuries, people are probably expecting us to just fold, just like you said, and that's not us. We come in the locker room and we're motivated. We continue to be motivated every single time we step on that floor. At halftime, we're motivated, chip away, and that's our mindset. And just continue to uplift people. When one person goes down, we say it all the time, the next woman stands up. And that's really just been our motto and been what we've had to do a lot this season, and that's what we're just going to continue to do.
After Phoenix, it was a quick turnaround to figure out, how we're going to play without, Ari and Sid, and now we got to figure out how we're going to play without Soph. And we've got to figure out, who can play in certain roles. What are our substitution patterns going to be? What kind of wrinkles can we throw out there? It doesn't get easier. And I think we come back and have Minnesota twice, right? So it's really good mentally, physically, and emotionally for us. And then it gives us practice time, which we're going to need.
Sophie Cunningham just went down in one of the scariest moments of the season, a brutal knee collision that silenced the entire arena and left fans furious, pointing directly at the officials for once again failing to protect players. To them, this wasn't an isolated incident. It was the latest chapter in what feels like a dangerous pattern. Caitlin Clark sidelined after that vicious groin hit. J.C. Sheldon's infamous eye poke that had people questioning if it was even basketball anymore. Marina Mabry's reckless foul that left Indiana stunned. Every single time the Fever step onto the court against the Sun, someone ends up hurt, and this time it was Sophie. But instead of breaking apart, the Fever fought through the pain and chaos, and behind Kelsey Mitchell's career-high explosion, Odyssey Sims' clutch presence, and Lexie Hull's ice-cold dagger 3, they pulled off one of the most shocking comebacks in franchise history. The question now is simple. How did Indiana turn a night of disaster into one of their most legendary wins? The problems for Indiana started long before Sophie Cunningham hit the floor. The Fever entered this game already stripped of every true point guard on the roster. Caitlin Clark was still sidelined with her groin injury from mid-July, veteran Sydney Colson was gone for the year with a torn ACL, and Ari McDonald was still out with a broken foot. That meant no floor general, no natural ball handler, and no one to control the offense. Head coach Stephanie White had no choice but to gut the playbook, simplifying everything to the bare minimum just to survive. Instead of preparing playoff-level sets like most teams at this point in the season, Indiana was forced to play shorthanded, improvising on every possession. The roster was already fragile, and rotations looked thin before tip-off. By the time the game began, the Fever weren't chasing wins, they were just trying to survive the night. The collision that sent Sophie Cunningham to the ground changed everything. Midway through the second quarter, Bria Hartley lost her balance and crashed straight into Sophie's right knee. The sound of her scream cut through the arena, and fans immediately knew it was serious. Trainers rushed in, but she couldn't stand, couldn't walk, and had to be carried off the floor. The worst part? The officials swallowed their whistles. No foul, no stoppage, nothing. The game went on as if nothing had happened, and that's what drove fans and even Sophie's family over the edge. Her sister blasted the WNBA for failing to protect its players, calling the officiating pathetic, while her mother accused Hartley of being reckless and out of control. To Indiana fans, this wasn't random bad luck, it was the latest in a disturbing trend where their stars were left unprotected. Inside the Fever huddle, though, the injury didn't break them. It lit a fire. By halftime, it looked like the Fever were finished. They were battered, short-handed, and already trailing after a sloppy first half where the offense looked broken and the defense couldn't keep up. The rotations were patched together with duct tape, Sophie Cunningham was gone, and emotions were boiling over as fans raged at the officials. On paper, this should have been the breaking point. But instead of folding, Indiana decided to fight. What followed wasn't just basketball, it was survival. Kelsey Mitchell came out of the locker room looking like a different player. She had just 4 points in the first half, but when the second half began, she shifted gears and took over completely. She demanded the ball, attacked every matchup, and carried the Fever on her back. By the end of the night, she had poured in 38 points, 34 of them after halftime, marking the highest scoring performance of the season and tying her career high. Step backs, clutch threes, free throws under pressure. She hit everything when the Fever needed it most. In overtime, when Indiana's season felt like it was dangling by a thread, Mitchell dropped 10 more points, sealing one of the biggest comebacks in franchise history. And it wasn't just her. Odyssey Sims, signed on a hardship deal, stepped in like she'd been with the team all year, dropping 19 points and 7 assists while calming the offense. Aaliyah Boston battled through double teams all night, finishing with another double-double, while Lexie Hull delivered the dagger 3 in overtime that broke Connecticut's back. Each role player stepped up, each moment added to the avalanche. Indiana, a team with no point guards, no momentum, and no depth, stunned one of the league's toughest opponents with a 99-93 win that felt like more than a victory. It was a message: the Fever might bend, but they will not break. Kelsey Mitchell's eruption might have been the headline, but the Fever's comeback was built on more than just one star. This was a team-wide act of defiance. Odyssey Sims, who wasn't even on the roster a few weeks ago, looked like the missing piece Indiana desperately needed. Brought in on a hardship contract just to keep the backcourt afloat, Sims delivered with poise far beyond expectations. She broke Connecticut's full-court press, handled traps with calm, and consistently found Mitchell in rhythm. Her 19 points and 7 assists didn't just keep the offense moving, they gave Indiana the floor general they had been missing all game. Then there was Aaliyah Boston. Night after night, she anchors the paint, but against Connecticut, she proved why she's already one of the most dominant bigs in the league. With 14 points, 13 rebounds, and a franchise record 15th double-double of the season, she was relentless inside. Every rebound extended possessions, every outlet pass reset the tempo, and her blocks erased mistakes. Without her battling 2 defenders at a time, Indiana doesn't survive long enough for Mitchell's takeover to even matter. Lexie Hull's moment came late, with the game hanging by a thread in overtime. The Sun had one last push in them, but Hull drifted to the corner and buried a cold-blooded 3 that slammed the door shut. It was just 8 points on the box score, but the weight of that shot was enormous. It was the play fans will remember when they talk about this game. Add Natasha Howard's bruising 18 points and 9 rebounds in the paint, plus Brianna Turner's defensive energy that disrupted the Suns' rhythm, and suddenly Indiana's so-called thin rotation turned into a unit that refused to collapse. Every player, from the stars to the role players, turned the chaos of injury and frustration into fuel. What should have been a blowout loss became the biggest comeback in Fever history, proof that when Indiana's cornered, they don't fold, they rise. Even with all those heroics, the controversy around Sophie Cunningham's injury never went away. Fans didn't just see it as an accident, they saw it as part of a disturbing pattern, and the silence from the officials made the anger louder. Sophie's family made sure their voices were heard, blasting the WNBA on social media for failing to protect players and calling out Bria Hartley directly as reckless and out of control. Her sister Lindsay's post went viral, demanding that the league focus less on finding players for harmless comments and more on fixing the officiating. Her mother Paula didn't hold back either, accusing Hartley of being mean and reckless. These weren't just emotional reactions in the moment, they represented what fans have been saying for months. The Fever are being targeted, and the league is looking the other way. This sense of injustice actually fueled Indiana on the floor. Every missed whistle, every bit of physical play that went uncalled, only pushed the team closer together. In the huddle, players were telling each other the same thing: we don't fold, we fight. That mindset was visible on every possession in the second half. They weren't just playing to win a game, they were playing to prove a point, to show that no matter how battered they are, no matter how unfair the officiating looks, they won't be broken. When Mitchell attacked relentlessly, when Sims calmed the storm, when Boston battled through constant double teams, they weren't just responding to basketball pressure, they were responding to disrespect. And by the time Lexie Hull buried that dagger 3 in overtime, it was more than a victory. It was a statement. This team might be injured, they might be overlooked, and they might be fighting the officials as much as their opponents, but they will not be intimidated. By the end of the night, the Fever weren't just celebrating a win, they were celebrating survival. Down 21 points earlier, missing stars, missing point guards, and losing Sophie Cunningham mid-game, everything screamed collapse. Instead, they turned it into the largest comeback in franchise history. Kelsey Mitchell's 38-point masterpiece pushed her into Fever history, passing Tamika Catchings for the most 30-point games and putting her squarely in the MVP conversation. Odyssey Sims proved she belongs, Boston stamped her dominance in the paint, and role players like Hull, Howard, and Turner all delivered when it mattered most. Even Caitlin Clark, watching from afar, tweeted 2 simple words, MVP Kels, that lit up social media. What looked like a disaster became a defining moment. The Fever sent a message not just to the Sun, but to the entire league. Even broken and bruised, Indiana will not quit. Indiana's 99-93 overtime win over the Connecticut Sun will be remembered as far more than just another regular season victory. It was the night the Fever showed the league and their own fans that resilience isn't just a word for them, it's an identity. Stripped of every true point guard, losing Sophie Cunningham to a brutal knee injury, and trailing by more than 20 points, they had every reason to fold. But instead, they fought. Kelsey Mitchell erupted for the best performance of her career. Odyssey Sims transformed from hardship signing into trusted floor general. Aaliyah Boston anchored the paint like a veteran champion. And role players delivered the kind of clutch plays that don't just win games, they change seasons. This comeback kept Indiana's playoff hopes alive and proved that they are far more than just Caitlin Clark's team. Mitchell's dominance put her firmly in the MVP conversation, while the entire roster sent a clear warning: underestimate us at your own risk. For fans, it was validation that the frustration over officiating and player safety isn't just noise, it's real, and it fuels this team. For the players, it was a reminder that no matter how thin the roster gets, no matter how many setbacks they face, there is always another level of fight left in them. So, as Sophie Cunningham undergoes tests and the Fever prepare for the next challenge, one thing is certain: this team isn't going anywhere. They refuse to be counted out, they refuse to be broken, and on this night, they proved it in unforgettable fashion.